Hey guys, welcome to Not Your Average Pitch. I'm your host, Sarah Hermina, founder and CEO of Envoyer Public Relations. Whether you're a PR pro, communication connoisseur, journalist, or just an average Joe, this is the place for you. We're covering the latest in media trends, business, startups, news, and more with pros across the industry and beyond. So join us every week as we turn PR into a personal relationship. I had the pleasure of speaking with my good friend Alexa Liacko today. Alexa is a correspondent with the Scripps national team based in Denver. She currently works on their weekly political show, The Race. Alexa travels the country telling stories and talking about political issues impacting families every day through her work. She joined the team in the midst of the pandemic after working in Atlanta, Georgia as a multimedia journalist and anchor. A self-proclaimed drone nerd, Alexa is also an FAA certified drone pilot and enjoys finding new and creative ways to use drones to illustrate a story. As a Southern California native, when she's not reporting, you'll find Alexa cooking a new recipe, hiking outdoors in the beautiful Colorado mountains, or taking a trip to the beach to visit family. Alexa, thank you so much for being here today.
First of all, this is so much fun and such a needed blast from the past in the middle of pandemic year 2. Here we go. But yeah, this last year has been full of adventures. I moved across the country, started a brand new job in the middle of quarantine. And so we didn't travel for 2 months. So I did all Zoom stories and things like that, kind of what everybody would be used to seeing. But then my producers told me to hit the road and let's start telling stories all across the country. So that's what we've been doing. And we've become, Lysol's #1 customers, buying as many packages of those little wipes that we can. And I look like a total crazy person because I have hand sanitizers clipped to my backpack like no other. But my most recent trip, we got to go to Alaska and follow along a team of pharmacists to cover and show people how they're delivering vaccines to Alaska's remote villages and communities, which are mostly made up of Alaska natives. So these are communities that have been there for basically, thousands of years. Their families have been there since time started, and they don't have any plans on leaving. They're really small communities, tight knit, everybody knows each other, but even despite them being so isolated, COVID has really decimated these communities. And it's so sad because they're so rich in culture and language and tradition, and a lot of the elders in these communities have been lost. And so these pharmacists are working really hard to make sure that they can get the vaccines out to these people. They're taking seaplanes in the coastal villages and stuff like that. They're taking boats, and some of these places you can only reach them by plane or by boat. There's no road. You have to actually just hop in some crazy vehicle. So we're outside the health clinic that serves 7 rural villages in the city of Tok. You can see it's a pretty small town. This is kind of the biggest building that we're at behind us. It's brand new, and every Monday they deliver 100 vaccines, and they said their appointments have been filled up. People have been really excited to get their shots. I've never felt that level of cold in my life. It was also just a shock to the system because I am such a baby about the cold. I wear blankets and slippers in my house all the time because I'm always freezing, but it would just hit your face and it would feel like it was stinging your skin. Oh. And thank God for the masks, because I took my mask down just to okay, what does it feel like to breathe in -40 degree air and you cough because it's just
Yeah.
like your lungs are not ready for it. And the people that we were with, they were like, leave your mask on. It's really not healthy to breathe in that cold of air. You know, you're going to keep coughing and you're going to get yourself sick. So I listened to them. Luckily, we've been home for a week and we are have not come down with some cold
Good.
inspired sickness or anything like that. But it was incredible. I mean, I don't think anyone who doesn't live in Alaska, like you just can't imagine living life, you know, having to take a dog sled to go get groceries. Some places they don't have running water still. So we talked to one chief and he said, he was like, it feels like we live in a third world country. Like I compare us to Haiti. He was like, but at least it's warm in Haiti. And so these tribes are really behind and have not had resources to advocate for themselves or to, you know, help build infrastructure to just have normal life. And so it was really cool to get to see the people that are trying to help change that and trying to help protect these people and their communities. So that was our most recent adventure, and I certainly will not forget it. I'll say that.
I bet it sounds like it. I mean, what an amazing experience overall just to go to Alaska. It's something I've always wanted to do, but such important work, obviously, such an important story. So I'm sure that was incredible. And flying in that tiny plane. I know you were like passing notes to the pilot at one point, which was pretty
Yeah, it was
cool.
really, and that is one thing that I walked away from that trip is just like we met some of the most incredible, kind-hearted, warm people. The pilot was like, please ask me any questions. He was writing notes to us as he was flying, and it was just fun. It felt like they really wanted us to learn about, you know, how different life was out there. And I wanted to soak every second of it in. And one thing I thought was funny, we were flying over these fields and we were asking, you know, what are we flying over? What are we close to? And he said we are flying over fields of barley, and that's the only thing that will survive in that cold of temperatures. So they grow barley in the winter there, which I had no idea that you could grow anything at all in
Right.
-40 degrees. It was a really kind of eye-opening experience to see how different life is, even just, you know, a couple thousand miles away. So it was really cool.
That sounds like an seriously amazing once in a lifetime experience. So that's really cool. And for those of you who don't know, Alexa is now living in Colorado. So it's funny. We were just talking before we started recording this podcast about the temps there and comparing it to sunny California, which you know we're spoiled out here with the sunshine.
So
But
spoiled. You know, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I went after college, I worked in Tucson, Arizona. So I like got my little blast of heat for 2 years. Then I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where it was like humidity central. And it actually got a little cold there in the winter. And then now I'm just continually moving down the cold scale. And here we are in Denver, Colorado. So I don't know. I hope that I will not move any colder because this is good for me.
well, you bring the sunshine with you wherever you go. So,
Oh,
but yeah, so I guess our next question, we'll just dive right into it. I mean, you've had such an incredible career already. You're so young. What I guess is your, you know, your hope for the future? If you can think that far ahead, I know right now with COVID, we're kind of just thinking, you know, one day at a time, but how is your career and your day-to-day work different, better or worse than you thought it would be?
gosh, that's such a tough question. I think when you first, you know, when I first think of how to answer that, I immediately just think of the fact that last year at this time, I was not sure I was going to even have a job because I had been doing some interviews and things like that. And I thought things were going to go well and that this Denver job was going to pull through. But then COVID-19 did what it did. And everybody was just kind of in shock and put on hold. And so I was left waiting for a few solid weeks, like praying every night, okay, like this job that I had been wishing for and hoping for basically my entire career studying and trying to become a reporter. This job has been something that I've always dreamed about doing, being able to travel and kind of having freedom to tell stories about people that aren't just a minute and a half, and that we can spend a whole day with somebody and really learn about them and look at their family pictures. And so I was so scared that I was going to lose what I had worked so hard for and then be caught up in the trap of COVID-19 where there's no more jobs. And so many people, my sister, friends, like people got laid off and just there was no path forward in the same way. So you had to find another way. And so I was really thankful that they wanted me to still come here. And I do feel really, really lucky because I think back when we were working our KABC news assistant days back in college, this kind of job is something that I always thought, wouldn't that be cool? And so honestly, I can't even stop smiling now, thinking like, okay, I really tried to work hard and do right by people, and here I am in a place where I get to do this job every day. It does not feel like work. And my photographer and I always say to each other, we're like, how did we get here? Like, thank God. we're so I think this is the first time in my career where I feel so like fulfilled and content that maybe it's not on Good Morning America and everyone in the country's not seeing it, but I feel like what I'm doing is meaningful storytelling. And for me, that is just the biggest treat. And I don't know how it happened, but thank you, universe, for pulling it together for me. I'm like kind of a believer in things will fall into place, and if you put in the work and put in the effort to try and set yourself up for success, that like whatever's meant to be will come to you. And so this kind of just fell into place. It wasn't even gonna be a permanent job at first. When I signed on last year, it was a temporary position. I was only guaranteed work until December, and there was no, it was basically freelance, no benefits or health insurance or anything like that. But something just told me, you know, take the jump, take the leap. You're going to regret it if you don't. And so I had never worked in a job where something was so uncertain that I could literally be let go the next day. I'd always had like 2-year contracts or some kind of promise of like, okay, you're going to work for this whole semester, of school. And so this was the first time, and it really kept me up from sleeping at night, just to like, should I take this job where there's nothing guaranteed? But the team that I'm working with, they kind of nudged me in the right direction and said, look, if you put in the work that you say you're going to put in, we'll find something for you so you will land on your feet. And so I'm really grateful that just the beginning of this year they hired me on full time, and so I will be able to stay for a couple more years. And it was definitely an anxiety inducing situation to not know, are you going to keep me? Am I going to be back where I was 1 year ago in the middle of the pandemic looking for a job? Which was scary. But I was really thankful that all the work that we put in over the last year paid off, and that we will have some stability for a little while at least.
You will, absolutely. And you work hard. And it's so funny. I just got chills like 3 times while you were talking, and just obviously so apparent that you love what you do. And it always has been from the days we were literally critiquing each other's not critiquing, but constructive criticism.
I know, encouraging each other, being like, oh, let's move this stand up. I like remember it vividly. Like I like do not get rid of text conversations. So I like have our texts from however many years ago sweet. With like our reels. Like it's all still there.
Oh,
it was so funny. And along with pictures of Zoe and all that stuff. So, which of course, as dog people, we must always send the dog photos.
Always. And I think, part of me is like, okay, like we're going somewhere, I saved it. I was like, I know she's going to go somewhere, and I'm going to have the text when she's the next Diane Sawyer, but,
I hope so. Save them up.
Yes, you will be. Absolutely. You work hard and you love what you do, and you're making a huge difference. But I have to tell our listeners this brief anecdote of how we met. So I was actually visiting California, visiting family, staying with them, and just so happened that they lived next door to your family at the time. And they said, oh, you should talk to our next door neighbor, Alexa. She's in town from Tucson. You were in Tucson by then. And I think she worked at KABC. And so sure enough, we met. I was interviewing for the same position you had formerly had. And yeah, you were just, I called you my fairy godmother because you always just appeared whenever you were in
Rolling
town
into
and I was
Camarillo, California for a weekend every once in a while. I know, honestly, I think it was, here I am again with the universe, but I honestly think it was meant to be because, and we've always stayed in touch.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those things where whenever we talk, no time has passed. And like you are, I feel the same about you, one of those people that your heart and your kind soul like radiates. And so it just, anytime we get to talk, it's such a treat to me and it makes me so happy because it just makes me smile knowing that like you're just as driven and doing great things. So the feeling is so mutual. And it does crack me up because literally there's a fence between, like, we can see into your aunt and uncle's backyard and they can see into ours, and we're always just like, hey, what's up, neighbor? And so whenever we were both home at the same time, it was so nice. And even though I usually missed you by like a weekend or two, but it was just always so fun having that connection. Like, who would have thought?
Literally, no, it just is the universe at that point. There's no way to
It's a
describe it.
mysterious thing, that universe of ours.
But I'm glad it happened. So let's see, what is our next question here? How has reporting in COVID been? I mean, the highs, the lows, everything in between.
Well, it's definitely been, I don't even have a word for it. I don't know how to describe it in one word other than just a total like roller coaster of unexpected things one after another. I started last year when everything shut down. I was still working at Fox 5 Atlanta at my former station. And so we started off, doing the Zoom reporting and just interviewing people outside and stuff like that. And so that became kind of normal. But, people are really don't want to talk to you in person. They'll jump on a Zoom, no problem. But that was one thing. And it's still hard, even now, to, ask people, hey, will you talk to me in person? And I understand, completely. So that's something that is still hard today, is that it was already hard to convince strangers to talk to you. And I like try to be a friendly person, but you will be surprised. Just try to get an interview for a day and people will ignore you so hard, so fast.
Oh, I know it. I know
You
it
know
from
it,
both
yeah. So
sides.
anyone who's done that job, and especially like as an MMJ or anyone doing like the one woman band, I was like, do I have three eyes or something? Why do you not want to talk to me for 10
Yeah.
minutes?
In
But
general, pre-COVID, it was like that. I can't imagine how much
yes.
worse.
So I just send a little prayer up every night. Hey, maybe someone will talk to me tomorrow, but we're still working on it. But when I moved to Denver, first there was the whole thing of moving because I was like, do I drive and stay in hotels, go to gas stations, like have to pick up food, or do I fly in a plane? And this was April 23rd last year. So it was really kind of scary to get in a plane. I ended up flying because we figured 4 hours in a plane would be less, fewer touch points and possible exposures than a 4-day road trip. So we hopped on a plane. I wore plastic gloves the whole time. My fingers were pruny by the time I landed, and N95 mask. And oh my gosh, it was really creepy in the beginning because there was nobody traveling. And so fast forward 2 months after I moved here, they started having us travel again. And it was the same kind of eeriness. The airports were just ghost towns. We flew Southwest a lot in the beginning because they pledged to keep the middle seat open. And so the flights were really empty. It was really quiet. And it kind of, once you get over the fact that this is supposed to be a super busy place and you're not waiting in line at security, you're not waiting in line to check a bag, you breeze through the airport and get to your gate in 5 minutes. It was like, okay, this is actually not so bad. And then midsummer hit, July, August, and I don't know what changed, if people just got sick of being at home, but the floodgates started to open and you would see families with children. It wasn't just business travelers. It was people who were just back out in the world again. And that was really surprising to me because I was thinking to myself, if I didn't have to be outside, I wouldn't be at the
Right.
airport. And so it was definitely just personally a little bit of a toll on my mental health because we had a couple of weird little run-ins on airplanes where someone had a really bad coughing fit. We had a guy sitting directly behind us who had to be pulled off the plane by paramedics, and he said he's been sick for a week. And you just hear those little things, and of course your mind just kind of spins. You're like, I've been sitting on this plane for 4 hours. I hope he's been wearing his mask behind me. I don't know if he has. And he couldn't walk off the plane by himself. So we're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
maybe this is. So we've had a couple of those moments where it's like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna get sick and I'm really scared, and I hope that I have a mild case. Like that's all you just can wish for. Knock on wood. Like if I can knock on every wood
Yes.
surface in my house. We traveled for about 9 months now, 10 months now, and we've been safe. And probably because I've turned into a little bit of a germaphobe. But
As long as you're safe.
if you haven't, then I worry about you. But yeah, it gets a little daunting after a little while, but then it's become a little bit normal. And I think that especially the flight attendants on the airplanes, they're the mask police. They'll tell you to pull it right back up. And if people have the mask sitting under their nose, they're not going to take it. And I appreciate that because people don't listen. We've never been on a flight where someone's been kicked off, but I have sat next to somebody who kept putting their mask down. And it's so awkward because do you turn into that person who's like, hey bud, can you put up your mask?
A little bit. Do it
It's
for
so
them.
hard. So it's
It is.
it's really easy. It's really just wear it above your nose. Please help us all. And so, you just always have that in the back of your mind wherever you go, like, okay, let's wipe down the rental car when we get in the rental car. When I get to the hotel room, let's wipe down the nightstand and the bathroom. And so it's all those little things that kind of like I've noticed have upped my just personal anxiety level of traveling. But I think we're now at a point where, and my photographer and I, we only travel with each other. So, and he's awesome. So we really are kind of a like united front on helping, let's wipe down this, let's wipe down that. And he's got to handle all the bags. So I help him wheel all the bags to his room, and then I say goodbye and I go to mine. But so he wipes down everything once we get there. But we have a good system down now. It just has been a little crazy. And we've come up with all these rigs and stuff like that to interview people with the long pole with the microphone, on the end, or is it the microphone that's hanging over the person's head just out of the frame? And so we have to carry all that with us. We carry probably around, it's less now. We've learned what we need and what we don't, but we carried at one point about 300 pounds worth of equipment. And so we had a big cart. And so I give props to the major network crews and stuff like that because, we do report for 60 stations. So we're kind of a mini network crew. But they have even more stuff than we carry. And oh my gosh, I feel like I've at least gotten a little bit stronger off of carrying the suitcases around.
Sure. You don't even have to go to the gym.
Yeah, well, the gyms in the hotels are closed. So that's been my excuse. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I won't work out today because the hotel gym is closed and I'm just going to lay in bed.
Yep, I know. It's a little too convenient. Me too. Same here. I'll do a floor workout once in a while and call it a day.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's tough, but that's great. I'm thankful, that you're staying safe and taking all the precautions. And, I think it's little things that we can all kind of do from here on out. Washing your hands, maybe not touching the door handles, things like that. So we know it's Women's History Month this month, and that is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on my podcast because you are absolutely killing it. You are making history. And
I hope one day I really will.
You already are. You've reported across the country. Again, I find this so crazy because I think we're the same age, but anyway, how is it being a badass female in this industry?
Well, thank you. I love that title. I'm going to add that to my business card. But I think that one thing that I've kind of noticed is that from college till now, there have been more and more women getting involved in journalism and media and taking over kind of the media space. And I think that's so cool. I will say right now, I'm the only girl, only female lady, gal, boss, woman on my team. So that's kind of fun.
Props. Yeah.
I'm like, they probably all wish I was a dude so I could talk sports with them, but
You still
I think
can. You still
I still
can.
can. I try. I don't have the stats down, but I definitely think that over the last few years, I've started to see more women getting leadership roles, whether it's editorial stuff at girls I went to college with are working for Bloomberg and Business Week and NBC, ABC, and like getting promoted to being the first, person in their family to graduate, do all these firsts. And I think that we get to watch that and watch that through social media on like a day-to-day basis. And so it's so cool to see other girls and women that like I went to school with or that I've worked with or that like even we met through our families get to just shine and succeed. And I think more women are getting that chance. And for me, I definitely have felt, frustrated throughout my years at different points in time, thinking if I was a guy, if I was a man, they wouldn't treat me like this, or, they would give me that raise that I asked for that they kind of laughed at. I have had a few moments where I've felt that and I just feel like, oh, they didn't expect me to ask for that because I'm a woman. And I think the one thing that I've learned is that if you don't ask for it, if you don't fight for yourself, no one will. No one will. And you can have all the supporters in the world, but no one's going to fight for you like you. And I've had to kind of learn my way around that. And I'm a self-proclaimed too nice person. And so it's hard for me to put my foot down and say, no, I'm going to be the person. I want to be the reporter sent on that story because I'm good enough. And it's taken me a little while to feel confident in myself that I am good enough, that I can keep up with the boys, can keep up with people who have more experience than me, because I will put in the work and I will put in the time. And I think that also part of me you know, wanting to do this is I definitely love getting brownie points and I'm a little bit of a people pleaser, but I think sometimes that kind of works to my advantage because I can understand what people will want, what people, kind of anticipating what people need. And so I think that has helped me and hurt me, but I'm trying to learn to harness that in a more helpful way than letting myself get taken advantage of. And that's been hard to get over. And I think that as a woman, you walk into the room and there is an expectation or there is kind of a box that you're put into. And so I think now people are starting to see those molds being broken, whether it's, through all the, civil unrest and protests that we've seen last year for Black Lives Matter, for all the movements for social justice, like the molds are being broken. And people are, I think, starting to sit back and say, I'm ready for something to be different. I'm ready for change and I'll listen. What do you have to say? And so I think I have felt as a woman that there is a bigger space and a better space for all of us to step into. And I am also, what I will end on is just to say there is space for everybody. And I have encountered women in my life who I would have loved to have as mentors or, who had more experience than me that I just am constantly a sponge and I always want to soak up whatever knowledge I can from anyone who's willing to impart something to me. And there have been times where I feel like older women have seen not just me, but other younger women in the room as a threat, as you're coming for my job. I don't want to have a relationship with you. And I just don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that.
There's no
Like,
place. There's no
if
place for it.
there's no reason for it. And like we gotta all be together
Mhm.
to get through and to make a way for ourselves at the top. And so that's just not me. And I've like been in touch with girls that I've gone to school with or people that I've worked with in the past saying like, hey, do you have time to watch my reel? And I always say yes, because why not?
Yeah.
Everybody can make 5 minutes to do that. And I think if we all take the 5 minutes to help someone we know, we're only going to see good things. Like there's no bad things that will come of helping someone else. And so I think now is such a good time. And I think that we are making strides and there have been little bumps along the way. I've been pretty lucky. I haven't had any major, setbacks in my mind because of just being a woman. But I think we got to fight a little harder,
Totally.
but I'm ready for it. Let's do it.
Let's go. Yeah, no, it's true. We got to lift each other up. There are enough things I think in this world that are against us to where there's just no time for the, competition, quote unquote. But
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think it's hard at first. Like even for me, you watch people that, are your same age, or you watch people that are maybe a year ahead of you or something like that, who are light years ahead in my mind of where, oh, I should have been here. I should have been able to do that. But that's not true. Like we
Mhm.
can all get to where we want to go and still, do so with grace and with kindness. And I think social media has let people be a little ugly sometimes, but I also think it is a good place for us all to cheer each other on too, and to be able to keep up when everyone's moving 100 miles an hour. So we'll see where my path takes me. Who knows? But we'll be cozy in Denver, Colorado for a little while, and I'm happy for that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, my last question, and I will have to come visit you in Denver because it just looks
Please do.
beautiful. But my last question for you is what advice would you give someone, maybe just graduating high school, just graduating college, kind of interested in the field? What would you tell them?
Wow, I'm thinking back to when I was just finishing school and totally unaware of what I was stepping into. I think the biggest thing that I would say is first, try and figure out if you really love it, if you really want to go into news, because I have watched a lot of my friends go into the business and love it, find their calling, this is it. And then I've watched a lot of people who find out one way or another that it's taking a toll on their mental health. They're not part of their family like they want to be, and they're not professionally fulfilled. It's hard. This job is hard. And I think that anyone who wants to make it can. And you got to be willing to work the hours. You know this. You put in the overnight, like the crazy hours. That's the one thing I think you'll never know, or you'll never be really ready for what it is. Like it
Mhm.
is always going to be harder than you think it is.
Absolutely.
But if you are determined to work hard and to always be learning, you can do it. And I think the one add on to that is like always be willing to listen to people. Like people will always drop you nuggets of advice. And sometimes there'll be big nuggets, a rock of wisdom that you got to be listening for and got to be ready to soak up at any time. And I think that's one thing that has helped me along the way is like I've always asked a ton of questions. I also don't stop talking. So sorry to everyone that I meet,
Same here.
it
Skip the
doesn't
cab.
stop.
Skip the
But I
cab.
think that just having that general curiosity about life will get you through. And there will be so many times where you're out on one story. And if you're really listening to what people are saying, they've got five other stories for you. So listen,
Absolutely.
like really, really listen. And I think if you really care about getting to know people, you'll go far, because this job is so about people, it's so about community. And if you let them know that you're there with them in the moment to help them try and tell their story, to lift up their voice, if you have that genuine desire to do that, then people will feel that. And I get texts all the time from people I've done stories with saying, hey, I don't know if you still work in Tucson, Arizona, but do you want to do a story on this? And I'll always point them back to my assignment desk friends who still work there and stuff like that. So I just think being unafraid to like let people in and to, really try to, see people's hearts, I think is the one thing that will help you get far. And some days it's hard because it's sad. You're seeing someone on the worst day of their life. And there are days you go home and you just sit back and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
I just saw that and I didn't want to see that. Atlanta was a really good lesson on you're going to see some ugly stuff and some sad things. And I mean, really bad violence. So you can't take everything on. You can't save everybody, but when you can, when you see an opportunity to help someone, I think if you take it, you will find success. And yeah, I just think I don't know. I think in as sappy as this may sound, but that is one thing that I think can redeem people's hatred for the media is that we have such a privileged job to help, to lift up, and to talk to people and really like make them feel better when they feel alone. And I know that sounds so like pie in the sky, kumbaya, but I think if we really got down to what it is that so many of us journalists do, like that is the reason behind it. And I hope that one day, you know, the public perception of all of us will get better because people will be doing more honest and more genuine reporting.
We really do appreciate everything you do, and
Oh,
stay
thank you.
strong. And you are absolutely doing amazing work out there. And I personally am inspired by you every day. So please check out her Instagram. I'll let you say the handle because I know you have your personal and your,
I've got a lot of accounts, but
yes,
the
you
important
got your
ones
dog
are the
account
easy
now.
ones. Just Instagram and Facebook and Twitter is all at Alexa Liacko. So my full name, and now it's all been simplified. So hopefully you can find me and follow along because we do have some pretty fun adventures. I'll say that.
Definitely do. Well, thank you so much again.
Oh,
And
thanks for having me. This has
I
been
don't
a
know how to
blast.
end this.
And as Coach was right, I was spending my day off being a little bit of a lazy bum, but this has just made me smile so huge. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you out.